BunjaGex here with another episode of my Mario Party review analysis. After the disappointment that was Mario Party The Top 100, the worst selling and worst reviewed entry in the series, I am now going to move on to the next entry, but before that I need to correct something. I apologize for in my last video I said the game Mario Party The Top 100 only made $670,000. I was wrong, it actually sold 670,000 copies. That being said, it is still the worst selling entry, only earning $27 million total. Nintendo decided that it was best to reboot the franchise, so instead of Mario Party 11, we got Super Mario Party, which Nintendo claimed would be the biggest Mario Party yet. And to this day, Super Mario Party is the highest selling entry in the whole series. It is the first and only entry to make over $1 trillion, where previous entries made over $20 million. Previously, the best-selling entry was Mario Party 8. Super Mario Party made $1,250 million, compared to Mario Party 8's $442 million. That is quite an insane leap in sales. Hard to say if Super Mario Party Jamboree will outsell it, for its revenue sales have yet to be reported. Now, Super Mario Party is the first entry on Switch, it's the first entry to use Joy-Cons in HD Rumble, and the second entry to be in HD. While I do think Nintendo uses way too much lighting, which makes the game look way too bright in a lot of areas or desaturated in certain areas, I do think that this is one of the best looking entries in the series. It could have been better, but when you compare it to many of the past games, this one is the most visually impressive. Too bad they got rid of DK's fur render from Mario Party 10 though, but I mentioned how I didn't think Mario Party 10 looked that great for being the first HD entry. I just mentioned how Donkey Kong actually looked really good in that game, but the rest of it looked really bland. It just looked more like a crisp version of Mario Party 9. It had a slightly better textures. I didn't feel like it pushed the graphics far enough to what the console was capable of, and I can definitely say Super Mario Party, they nailed it. There's some parts in this game that actually look realistic. So this has the biggest roster in the series so far. This time, Bowser and 9 of his minions are joining the party, along with Mario and his 9 friends, totaling to 20 playable characters. It was almost the biggest roster in the series until Super Mario Party Jamboree, which that one had 22 characters playable, but it cut out a lot of characters in the process and brought back a lot of past characters that I don't think everyone really was clamoring for. Toad and Toadette return to having hosting roles in this game. Koopa Kid, who has been replaced with Bowser Jr. since Mario Party 8, along with Birdo, Blooper, Kamek, and Spike. So they're the only characters who do not make a comeback. But we've got many newcomers, including Pom Pom from Super Mario 3D World, Monty Mole, and best of all, Goomba. I think it's the funniest yet coolest thing to have a Goomba playable, since many of these minigames require grabbing objects or pushing players. So seeing these stubby little henchmen doing all this stuff without any arms, it's pretty funny to watch, or play as. The roster is overall fantastic, and it's great to finally play minigames and board maps as Bowser. Now that Bowser's playable, the Bowser spaces were replaced with Bad Luck spaces, which are hosted by Kamek Koopa. There is no single player mode, but there is a goal to try going through each mode and earn these particular gems. There's 5 to collect altogether. They're not really worth the hassle of collecting though. You get a very underwhelming cutscene. It's like where everyone's celebrating you as the winner, then everyone just loses interest. It's so anticlimactic, trust me. The unlockables in this game are incredibly underwhelming as well. We once again earn Mario Party points to spend at a shop, but all we get is useless junk like stickers to put in front of a sticker board. Aside from the title screen, the music is once again very bland. It's very obnoxious to listen to. You just can't help but just be reminded of how much better the music in the first 3 games were. The main menu is one of the most unique menus in the series. Instead of a simple menu selection, we're forced to pick a character along with our CPU, and we actually get to run around an open hub world, and we get to choose like which mode we want to play to by running up to it. Luckily, there is a quick menu where you can just press the top button to activate a menu and warp to these places faster. The only gripe I have with this menu is I miss being able to select a character every time we start a new mode. I'm one who likes to change things up every once in a while. I don't like sticking with the same character throughout. Sometimes I like to change it up and see what the games look like playing as other characters. So it is really annoying that you have to keep exiting out of every mode and going back to the entrance on the main menu every time you want to change a character. I would have rather just asked if we wanted to change our characters every time we go to a new mode or something. It is kind of annoying, and I know I'm not the only one. The game doesn't do the best job at letting players know how to change characters. I have seen people like actually search up online, how do you change your characters in this game? The text in this game is unfortunately very bland. Each board map used to have such stylized graphics for presenting the levels, and now all we have are just blank white corporate text. It's such a boring downgrade. While most of the 3D models in this are just updated models from Mario Party 10, this truly is one of the best looking entries in the series. The characters look so expressive in this game, the way that their eyes actually wander around and they actually look into each other when they're near another player. It's such an improvement over the creepy blank doll-like stares they gave in the first 9 games. The attention to detail is so amazing, like how certain character pairings have unique dialogue, the way the players bump into each other when they land on the same space as another or walk past them on the board map, the way the characters look sad and terrified when they land on the bad luck space, or the ways that the characters laugh as they sabotage another player with an item. It really adds a lot of fun personality to this decades-old franchise. The game is the first home console entry since Mario Party 7 to go back to using actual joystick controls, but we're only allowed to play the game with one Joy-Con. We hold the Joy-Con sideways, move our players with the joystick, and use the buttons for menus and minigames. Most people seem to frown upon playing video games with one Joy-Con, and can you blame them? It is very uncomfortable. It's the most uncomfortable way to play games like Mario Party 8 or Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Because to be good at those games, you need extra buttons, which the Joy-Cons are lacking or hard to press. They don't have like a second control stick. The Joy-Cons SL and SR buttons are so uncomfortable. They are not good substitutes for the L and R buttons, and it makes drifting in Mario Kart impossible, or grabbing or shielding in Super Smash Bros. A nightmare. Luckily, Super Mario Party plays just fine with a Joy-Con for the most part. It's more comfy than using the D-pad and limited buttons on a Wii remote. The game still uses motion controls for some minigames, but there are no crosshair shooting games this time. Kinda glad, since the Joy-Cons are usually terrible when it comes to playing first-person shooting. The motion-controlled games are very mixed, however. Some work fine while others work horribly, but more on that later. The biggest downside to the single Joy-Con requirement is that this is the only Mario Party game on Switch where we cannot play it in handheld mode. We can play it on tabletop mode, so we don't have to play it connected to a TV, but we have to use the Joy-Con wirelessly. The game prevents us from playing if the Joy-Con is attached to the console, and it can really limit the game's playability for that reason alone. So good luck trying to play this game on a couch or sofa while watching background TV without a coffee table to set it on, or good luck trying to play it while riding in a car, a train, or a plane. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. So let's look at all the features in this game, starting with Toad's Rec Room, which is just the extras or bonus games mode. Nothing too exciting in here, but there is one fun challenge. So first is Mini League Baseball, which isn't anything too amazing. It's just a fun little side feature where we play a 2 vs 2 game, playing as characters on an oversized mini baseball table toy. The batters press the A button to swing the bat, the pitcher holds and releases the A button to launch a ball from a pinball-like launcher, while the catcher uses the joystick to move around these 3 discs that try striking the batters out, so they're basically like oversized baseball mitts. The controls are simple enough, but I hate how we can't control both batters. For our CPU batter is terrible at this. They're constantly getting strikes or fouls. It really does make this less fun than it should be. Shell Shock Deluxe is a top-down reimagining of the Mario Party 2 minigame of the same name, but now the cannon fires can ricochet off walls and break through these brick blocks. It's okay, but nothing special. There is a gimmick where if you play this in tabletop mode, you can line up 2 to 4 Switch consoles next to each other to make a bigger arena, which the players can travel across the screens with. I've never used that feature before, for no one in my life games the way I do. Barely anyone I know actually has a Switch, or this game in particular. So yeah, I never got to test this out, but it honestly doesn't look that exciting either way. And sadly, this is the first Mario Party in a long time to not have an exclusive puzzle minigame, which requires matching multiple colored tiles and stuff like that, but it does have a very different kind of puzzle challenge called Puzzle Hustle. This minigame has us trying to merge multiple pieces of 3D pixels to complete the shape of Mario characters. Some of the sprites are straight from NES games, while others are brand new sprites to fit characters who didn't exist yet during the NES era. I wish pushing the blocks around was a lot faster, but it's still a decent side feature with many levels of varying difficulty. Luckily there's no time limits, but it does record our fastest times, so it might be fun for those who just want to try completing each level as fast as they can. Some levels are trickier than others, but it's overall a pretty good challenge. Banana Split is the only feature in this game I really wasn't able to try out, aside from lining up all the switches to play the Shell Shock Deluxe. It sounds pretty stupid anyways, it just requires swapping 2 Switch consoles around and try solving these picture puzzles that involve bananas, no thanks. On to the minigames. Now it's worth mentioning that this was the first entry in the series to use online play, something that would have made Star Allies even better back then. At launch, only certain minigame modes were playable online, including these lame daily challenge minigames. They were not fun, the minigames were limited, and the performance was horrible. You only got to play like 3 minigames a day, and there was a lot of minigames that were off limits from being featured on that mode. It constantly lagged, it froze up, it kept crashing. It's just a reminder of why I don't like playing online games, especially on Switch. This game originally came out on October 5th, 2018, but 4 years later, the game got a free update that added online features for minigame free play and party mode. I haven't tried Mario Party since it got the free online mode. I figured it would have performed as horribly as every other Switch online game that isn't Mario Kart. I have tried Super Mario Party Jamboree's online mode, and it was surprisingly decent. It worked well, so I don't know how well Super Mario Party runs in comparison. So on to the 80 minigames. There's only 50 like general minigames, and then the rest of them are basically, there's 10 per like these 3 different modes. So let's start off with the 50 regular minigames. Trike Harder has us wriggling the Joy-Con sideways to win a tricycle race. It is very funny to see these mostly adult characters racing on such tiny bikes made for toddlers, especially with characters like Bowser or Goomba. It's just a goofier clone of the track event gameplay from the Mario and Sonic Olympic crossover games. Slapperazzi is a fun successor to Flash Forward from Mario Party 10. Instead of fighting for the spotlight for one camera photo, we're fighting over many different cameras across different angles, leading to a lot of comical still frames. I for some reason get reminded of that moment from SpongeBob, the episode Wormy, where SpongeBob and Patrick tackle Mr. Krabs as he gets his picture taken. That's what this minigame reminds me of. It's like just nothing but just funny interrupted pictures of characters hitting each other. It's so funny. Sizzling Steaks is a fun idea where we race to cook all 6 sides of our steak cube. We wait till we no longer feel a rumble on our Joy-Con in order to flip our steaks over to the other sides. It starts off easy but gets tricky when trying to get the last few remaining sides cooked, for it's easy to accidentally flip it onto an already cooked side. This is overall a fun minigame with stunning visuals. Like, it's crazy how realistic the steak and grease looks. Too bad we see cartoony floating gloves holding the skillet instead of our player's hands. It would have been funny if you saw like Bowser's giant hand like holding that frying pan or something, or it's like how the heck would the Goomba hold the frying pan? That'd be funny if you just saw like his teeth or something, you know, just gripped on with her. My biggest complaint is that this minigame, it needed a time limit. For most often, I get done very quickly, and I have to wait forever, usually an additional minute, for the sluggish CPU to get done. So yeah, a lot of these minigames really need a time limits, because there are a lot of minigames where the players can fall behind, and it can take forever for them to get done. So instead of waiting for them, they should just wrap it up to end it quickly. Snack Attack is an okay minigame, but it just feels like a clone of Coney Island. In that one, we didn't have to worry about dodging these fireballs. A giant corn volcano explodes as we try catching giant pieces of popcorn that rain from the sky. It's still a fun and silly minigame, but Coney Island is still better in my opinion. Barreling along is a fun idea, and it visually looks great, especially with the detailed grass and such, but the controls are awful and unresponsive. We're supposed to tilt the Joy-Con forward and tilt left or right to win a barrel rolling race, but the controls constantly have calibration issues where they either don't turn or don't move forward. It's hard to recommend this one when the controls are so unreliable. Sphere Mongers has us piloting UFOs as we pick up spheres with a magnet, carry the spheres back to our goals to try to get the most. Senseless Census has us running back and forth across a train as we try counting how many toads are on the train. Social Climber has us repeatedly holding and releasing the L or R button on the Joy-Con while pulling the Joy-Con down repeatedly in order to win a race to climb to the top of a flagpole. Now that's just a Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix pose that Bowser's making right at the end. I like how each character has their own victory animation for sitting on the pole or standing on the pole, whichever they choose, but I feel like this minigame goes on way too long. Can Take Pancake has us trying to grab the most pancakes. The one with stars on them are worth triple points. We can only grab the pancakes that aren't piled underneath other pancakes. This one's tricky because you try grabbing the one on top that has a star underneath, and then right when you do that, a player swoops in and steals the one with the star underneath. It's like, ah, darn it. This game is just full of thieves. The Mario Party series has had plenty of minigames involving shuffle memory mix-up games, but Lost in the Shuffle is arguably the worst of the bunch. It gets too fast and ridiculous at the end. It makes you wonder what's the point in even trying to keep your eye on the toad with the most dolls inside. when you're just going to lose sight of it during the last 2 shuffles. At least it only goes on for 1 round. I would have groaned if it went on for 2 additional rounds. That would have just made this drag on way too long. Precision Gardening has us rapidly moving the Joy-Con up and down to get our water pump to water a flower. There's a cute detail for playing this as short, stubby characters like Shy Guy or Goomba, where they get to sit on a stool to make reaching the pump easier for them. Gridiron Gauntlet has us running and dodging the Charging Chucks. Candy Shakedown is no joke, possibly the greatest Mario Party minigame ever made. It's hard to admire without playing it for yourself, though. Our goal is to tilt and shake our Joy-Con around to try and get every piece of candy out of the jar. Aside from its hypnotizing imagery and sounds of the colorful candies clinking around, what really makes this minigame so special is the use of the HD Rumble. You can actually feel the weight of all these candies shaking around in your controller, which adds to the interactivity of this minigame. It is unlike anything I've ever played in any video game ever, and it is so fun and addicting. The last piece of candy is always the hardest one to shake out. Once again, this could have used the time limit because some of the players can take forever to get the last pieces of candy out, but overall it is a really good minigame, possibly one of the best in the series. Not to mention the opening cutscene, where each character has their own unique animations for admiring and peeking inside the candy jars. It's kind of sad to realize that Nintendo really abandoned making ambitious minigames like this ever again. What was the point in introducing the HD Rumble on their Joy-Cons when they barely used it in any of their games? Fuzzy Flight School is my second favorite minigame here, as we use motion controls to steer our planes around to try dodging the fuzzies. The last one standing wins. We each get 3 HP. Soak or Croak. Am I the only one weirded out by that name? It's like it's basically saying wet or die. More like stay dry or die, but... So we're running around with powerful water guns. We try blasting everyone out of the arena. If we run out of water, we need to reload by shaking the Joy-Con. It plays very similarly to Snowball Summit from Mario Party 3, but I'll argue that one was actually better. Looking for Love plays very similarly to Look Away, except we gotta look in the direction where the hearts appear. Cruisin' for a Bruisin' requires both skill and luck, as we run down one of 2 paths to avoid getting knocked out by the bruisers. It's hard to tell what lies beyond each path. Some will be clearer paths, while others will have blocks that get in our way or pipes that will spawn out more bruisers. Trip Navigator has us racing to the opposite corner of our screen, but there's many bananas in our way, which we need to get around. It can leave us with many tough choices. Do we want to risk running through some bananas which may slow us down, but can lead to a shortcut, or do we want to risk taking a long way around the bananas to see if we can find an easier path? It can be very unpredictable, but it's still a very fun challenge. Look Sharp has us holding and tilting the Joy-Con inward and outward to move a magnifying glass so we can try to get a clear focus image of a character waving at us. I think this would have worked better if, instead of waiting for every player to finish the first round before moving on to the next 2 rounds, I think each player who finished early deserves to move on to the next round ahead of everyone else, instead of waiting for the slowpoke CPU every time. Absent Minded has a cute little animation where all 4 of the characters are chilling as one character tells an inaudible funny story or joke, which causes the others to break out into laughter. Touches like these can really make a game more fun and lively. The goal of this game is to go 3 rounds trying to answer which characters are not shown on the big pictures above. Each picture gets trickier to solve, from distorted imagery to flickering pieces of images scattering around. Usually I hate dumb luck minigames that require taking turns doing something while hoping we don't get eliminated, but Don't Wake Wiggler is admittedly a fun and hilarious idea. Each player takes turns petting a sleeping giant Wiggler by shaking the Joy-Con. We earn a point for each stroke. The game ends when the Wiggler wakes up as it angrily chases away the players. I can imagine this one is very fun and uncomfortable to play with friends, for it messes with your senses. It has the sweet, calming, lullaby-like music, but you know something isn't right here, as you keep petting this cute, oversized caterpillar, knowing something bad will happen if it wakes up. And it's especially more uncomfortable if you've actually played Mario games and you know what the Wigglers are like. So, yeah, it is a pretty funny, very tense idea. There are so many close calls where the Wiggler quickly opens its eyes, or it starts giving agitated looks. And when it wakes up, it might give some players a jump scare. I can't say I'm a fan of playing this one every time it gets picked, but I don't mind playing it every once in a while. It's a fun novelty worth playing at least once. Feeding Frenzy has us holding the R or L button while swinging the Joy-Con forward to throw the most balls into the cheap chomp-shaped hoops as they open their mouths. Our points are multiplied if we throw the balls through the mouths once they light up with rainbow colors. We throw through the top hoops by swinging the Joy-Con harder while throwing through the lower hoops with gentler swings. Stake Your Claim is a brain puzzler as we go through many rounds of needing to guess which of the one of 4 shapes can contain the most divided squares. It can mess with your mind since we don't have enough time to try counting which ones will have the most likely. We have to pick based on our first glances, or risk the CPU picking the best options because we took too long. It's a rare case where a dumb luck minigame can actually be fun. Rumble Fishing is another minigame that takes luck to win. We only get one chance to reel in the longest dragon eel as we hover over the many shadows of dragon eels beneath us. We feel a rumble from the Joy-Con when hovering over one of them. The bigger the rumble, the longer our catch will be. Rattle and is another tricky minigame that requires the HD rumble. We go through 3 rounds of being shown 3 enemies as they perform an action that creates a different rumble. The curtains close on the enemies and we feel one of the rumbles from one of the enemies reappear, but this time we can't hear the sound effects that accompanied it from before, and we have to guess which character behind the curtain made that rumble. Like, round 1 is very easy, but rounds 2 and 3 have very similar feeling rumbles, and it can really make the difference between what's a womp or a thwomp much harder to judge without the sound effects. It can be a very fun minigame every once in a while, but let me tell you, this minigame can get really annoying if it gets picked more than once during one board map. I've had once where like this minigame got picked 3 times in a row and it was annoying. Metal detectors makes Rumble Fishing feel pointless in comparison, for this minigame is basically the same as Rumble Fishing, but better, because we get many chances of finding treasure instead of only one chance. So this reminds me of that oil digging extras minigame from Mario Party 4, but now it's for 4 players instead of 1 player, and it uses HD Rumble instead of regular Rumble. We walk around searching until we feel a strong rumble in our controllers. We press the right button to dig up coins, and we also want to watch out from bumping into Pokies. Heir to a Fortune is another one of my least favorite types of dumb luck minigame, where players gotta try hopping to collect the most coins, but if they bump into each other, both players waste a turn and get nothing. I cannot stand these. Why can't it play more like that one minigame from Mario Party 10, where we just hop around to collect fruit non-stop? And if we bump into each other, it just stuns us for a little bit. Yeah, I prefer that gameplay. This just feels like a dumbed down version of what that Mario Party 10 minigame introduced. Follow the Money has us running to collect money while avoiding falling off the edges or getting crushed by womps. Once you see the finish line, don't race over to it just yet, for there will be some coins that will spawn pretty late, and you can't collect them if you already crossed the finish line. This minigame really does feel like it's pitying bad players. Not only do coins spawn far ahead for the players who are staying in the lead, but they spawn way far behind as well, making this feel like it's a minigame for babies. Lightning Round is basically a clone of Hammer Throw from the first game, except instead of a Hammer Bro that throws coins for us to collect and hammers to dodge, we have a Sumo Bro firing electric blasts at us. We collect the coins that appear out of nowhere, and getting struck by lightning will make us lose 3 coins that we collected. So it's also kind of a harder version of Lightning Round, for it is more punishing if you get hit. It's surprisingly really short though, like I'm surprised how it ended just so abruptly. Timing is Money is a dumb luck slot game where we can keep stopping a roulette to try earning between 1 to 5 coins at a time, but if we land on a Bob-omb, we lose all those coins that we collected, which can make this minigame very frustrating if we get the bomb so close to the game's end after gathering so many coins. Onto the 1 vs 3 minigames. Smash and Crab is a very unique 1 vs 3 minigame. Now we've seen many minigames requiring 3 players chasing down a player to eliminate them, but what makes this one so different is how one player is controlling a giant crab robot's movements from left to right, while the other 2 players are in control of each of its claws. The players controlling the claws have a hammer in them, and they need to smash player 1 with the hammer, while the other one controlling the crab needs to move them in place. It makes for a very tricky yet fun 1 vs 3 challenge. It's honestly easier for the single player though, since they can easily stand between the crab's hammers and narrowly dodge the attacks with the right direction and timing. Off the Chain is easier for the 3-player side, as one player rides around on a hard-to-control chain chomp as we need to ride it through a bullfighting arena to ram the other 3 players out. I do love the detail of how the walls get dented and cracked after the chain chomp rams into them. Dust Buddies is a fun one. It feels like a 1 vs 3 version of Motown from Mario Party 6 in a way, except instead of mowing for the most grass, we're vacuuming for the biggest bag of dust. The 3-player side has it the hardest though, for they have to move in unison to control their entire vacuum around, otherwise their cords will cut short if they try spreading out in too many different directions at once. And that's tricky because they gotta move at the same time, but at the same time, they do need to move around to try collecting the dust in different corners. So it is much easier if you're the single player with the bigger vacuum. Sign, steal, deliver, it's a fun idea, but very one-sided against the single player side. The 3 players try running up and down these stairs to carry packages to a truck at the bottom, while the single player uses a drone to try stealing the packages to put onto their truck. The single player may be able to move around quicker, but they can only carry 1 package at a time, compared to the 3 players that can carry up to 3 packages at once. It does make it feel very one-sided for the 1-player team. Despite how they get like a cool control method, it's not worth it if you can only carry 1 package at a time. You can steal a package that one of the players are carrying, but still not enough to make up for how many they can carry at once. And then it's not very fun for the 3-player side either, because running up and down the steps is very tricky as well due to the awful perspective, which can make the controls pretty messy. I love the concept, but I hate the execution. I also question why we're taking the packages from the doorstep and loading them into a truck. Wouldn't it make more sense to take the packages from the truck and move them upward instead of the other way around? It makes it look more like we're stealing packages from people. Dart Gallery is a very unfair minigame for both sides, but mostly for the single player. The single player needs to drive around and dodge the 3 players as they try firing suction arrows into the single player's bubble. 1 hit and the single player loses. It's easy to dodge the arrows, but each of the 3 players only get 5 arrows, and they can easily work together to shoot the arrows to cage in the single player, giving them nowhere else to run and leaving them with plenty of opportunities to just shoot an arrow at them and finish it off. So I just don't have fun with this one no matter what side I'm on. Also, the colors and lighting from the scenery in this one, it really bugs me for some reason. It just doesn't look right. Hideous to look at. I don't like the color choices they used here. Block and Load is a fun race to knock over every block from a tower before the other team. The 1 player has a big and powerful cannon, while the 3-player side have weaker cannons. Drop Shot is tricky for the single player, as they need to aim with the joystick and press the right button at the right time to smack bob-ombs into the other 3 players as they try dodging while climbing across the fence. It can be very hard to concentrate on our crosshair, the players, along with timing to hit the bombs all at the same time. Bopping Spree has the goal of each team needing to hit the most glowing punching bags. The single player is surrounded by a diamond of these punching bags, making them quicker and easier to reach, while the 3-player side are outside of the diamond, meaning they'll need to spread out and work cooperatively to hit the bags quick enough. Now, Mario Party has had plenty of tiring quiz show minigames, and none of them will ever top the one from Mario Party 3 in my opinion, but Drop Quiz creates a new spin on this. So we are shown a clip of many characters holding different fruits, as 1 player gets to pick which question the 3 players need to answer. The players need to stand on a trapdoor that matches the answers to the question, and if they fail, they fall through a trapdoor. So if the single player can get all 3 players out within 3 turns, they win. This one might be more fun with actual players, for it can feel very dumb luck when playing against CPU. What a Racket has 1 player needing to whack bob-ombs onto the 3-player team's side of the court. The 3-player teams have regular rackets, while player 1 has a very big racket. If a bob-omb touches the opposing floor of the court, that player who hit that bob-omb wins a point. On to 2 vs 2. Pie Hard might be my favorite 2 vs 2 minigame of all time. It's so simple but so fun. It's just a pie throwing contest. We can hold up to 2 pies at once, but can run back to the table as the toads bring out more pies. Landing a hit earns us a point. Now, what makes this minigame so fun is just how messy it is, with the cream splattering all over the floors and even piling on top of the characters, leading to some hilarious and comical images. It makes it look like they're wearing poorly made sheep costumes, or they have like cream mustaches and beards on their faces, to even some unintentionally lewd looking imagery, like the way like it covers Bowser's groin. It makes it look like he's getting some raunchy censorship or something. So no matter how you look at it, whether you have a clean mind or a dirty mind, it's just a really fun and messy minigame. Since this is the first 2 vs 2 minigame I'm going over, now would be a good time to bring up the high five mechanic. After every 2 vs 2 minigame or certain party events, the game triggers us to either shake the Joy-Con or press the right button to have our players high five our partners. Admittedly, it's kinda cute seeing the best of friends or even the worst of enemies giving a genuine high five for accomplishing something. Especially with characters like Mario and Bowser, where you would never imagine them actually doing this with genuine sincerity, and so it is kind of cute to see that happening. But the problem is that this happens way too much throughout the game. It wouldn't have hurt to make us just high-five at the beginning or the ending of the game, or the first time we play a 2 vs 2 minigame, but It has to happen every single time we do this. I would have preferred if they gave us the toggle option to shut off the high fives in the game, so that way it makes the game go by a lot quicker, because depending on circumstances of certain modes, you may be required to high five too many times in a row and it gets old really fast. I do love the attention to detail and animations during the high five animations, like how they kept everyone's height into consideration. The way each character is programmed to look into each other's eyes, like the way that the characters actually crouch down to look at the Goomba, and how the Goomba looks high up to look at the characters who are taller than him. It's so adorable, and it adds so much life instead of having these characters just blankly staring into the player's souls like in previous games. It is really cool to see these characters feel so alive. Tall Order looks a lot easier than it actually is. We have to rotate our Joy-Cons like we're moving a grind lever to grind ice into a moving bowl to try making the tallest tower of shaved ice. The tough part is finding the right speed and timing to perform this, for if we go too fast, we'll keep missing the bowl and we'll run out of all of our ice, because the ice will not last forever. There will come a point where if we grind too fast, it will be gone. And if you go too slow, then you won't get enough ice to pile on at all. It's tricky, but it's still an interesting minigame. Making faces is another great 2 vs 2 minigame. Sadly, the CPU are very uncooperative at times, but for once, I think that's what makes this minigame even funnier. This minigame has each player trying to move and slide pieces of eyes and a mouth onto these blank-faced pictures of either Bowser or Mario. Now, one player controls the horizontal movements, while the other does the vertical movements. Every time I play this, I'm always stuck with the horizontal movements for some reason. It's fun to see how badly the CPU will mess this up, even your own partner. It's one of the easiest minigames, yet they are so stupid. Sometimes they'll put the left eye where the right eye is supposed to be, sometimes they'll put like the mouth way up on the forehead or something. It's like, what the heck are they doing? The derpy Mario and Bowser faces we can get are sometimes so hilarious, and if only this minigame offered the faces of other characters as well, that would have made this even more fun. But it's still fun and hilarious for what it is. Maps of Glory may be a dumb luck slot minigame, but it's actually very fun. Each team rolls the dice to try landing the first and second number for a multiplication. So if one player lands a 4 and the other teammate lands a 6, these numbers will be multiplied into 24 cannon shots. The goal of this minigame is to fire cannons into the opposing team's castle. The castles have 50 HP, where one shot per cannon subtracts 1 HP from the castle. And obviously whoever loses all their HP loses. I also love the visuals in this world, how everything is made of puzzle pieces, including the grass, the water, and even the clouds. This feels like a level that was missing from the Banjo-Kazooie series. It feels like a level that was meant for Banjo-Kazooie and it never got made, and instead it's a Mario Party minigame, but that would have been the perfect level for a Banjo-Kazooie game. We're constantly collecting puzzle pieces, so it would have made sense to make a 3D world where everything is a puzzle piece. Missed opportunity, Rare. Dash and Dine has each team of 2 working together to gather 3 needed ingredients to bring to the Chef Toads. There are so many ways to do this minigame. You can either have players spread out to get the ingredients faster, or you can have one player be in charge of distracting the other team members. So you could have them like just running in front of them and preventing them from progressing, while the other teammate relies on getting all the ingredients. Fruit Forecast is a simple game where each team of 2 needs to collect the most falling fruit while dodging the mines. Nutcases has us needing to use the HD Rumble feature as our players pick up boxes and shake them around. Judging by the rumbles for our controller, we need to find the 5 boxes that we think contain the most acorns, and then we need to place them all on our 5 stumps. In case we place some down already onto the stumps, but found more boxes that we think may contain more acorns than some of the boxes we've already placed down, we are allowed to swap them around. But once 5 boxes are placed on our stumps, we cannot swap them around anymore. We also cannot steal from our opponent's stumps. So it's an interesting idea, but I feel like the HD Rumble was really weak in this minigame. It made it really hard to tell the difference between a lot of these boxes. Like, it was easy to tell like which ones are like the lowest, but it was kind of hard to tell like which ones were the heaviest. Toe the Line is one I really wanted to like, but the CPU are very unresponsive in this game, and they ruined the whole thing for me. So this one has each team member needing to hold an opposing end of yarn, as we try moving between the pins to match the image shown in the center. It's a really fun idea, but the CPU are so uncooperative, they don't even attempt to match the shape or follow our lead. It makes this a very dumb luck minigame when paired with CPU. And it's unfair that the opposing CPU are actually more cooperative. The CPU make this one so frustrating, it's honestly the dumbest I've ever seen the CPU in the entire series. And I've said that many times throughout my review series, but I really mean it this time. This is the worst I've ever seen them in a 2 vs 2 game. And darn it, this game overall was having such a good collection of 2 vs 2 minigames. It was nearly perfect, and then this one kind of ruins it. But this one could be more fun to play with friends. Even messing up with friends would be more fun than messing up with CPU. Perfect Fit is a unique idea where each player has to rotate their Joy-Cons to rotate one half of a cube. As the players need to align both sides to reunite and connect them, the first to connect 3 of them together wins. The CPU can be slow at times, but they're still more cooperative compared to other past minigames. Juicebox has each team member needing to align their cursors with the joystick to box the 4 fruits shown on the picture. And that's all 50 minigames that we can play in regular. So while there are less minigames here than there are in Super Mario Party Jamboree, I admittedly like the minigames in this one a lot better. Super Mario Party Jamboree had some of the most longest and boring minigames I've ever played in the series, but it had a lot better board maps in my opinion, but I had a lot more fun revisiting these minigames compared to the ones in Jamboree. So on to the other exclusive minigames. There's 10 for each of the 3 extra modes. So these next sets of minigames are exclusive to a new mode called Party Partner Mode. Party Partner Mode is basically a 2 vs 2 reimagining of Toad Scramble and Balloon Battle from Mario Party Star Rush. I think it's great that they brought back the grid-based tactical board map gameplay where we get to move around in any direction. That was the best part about Star Rush along with Coinathlon. But it annoys me how it's only for 2 vs 2. I would have loved seeing a free-for-all version of this, or even a duel version of this. So once again, we roll the dice and move around on square tiles, collect coins in any direction as we race for the stars, while collecting as many allies that we find along the way. When one player rolls the dice for their turn, their partner rolls the dice as well, and each player gets to combine their dice rolls, so if one player rolled a 1 while the other rolled a 6, both players can move 7 spaces in one turn. However, we also share the same coins and items as we work together to get the most stars. It's overall a very fun mode. It's sad that this was the last game to utilize the Star Rush styled gameplay and ally system. Once again, each player can befriend 3 allies, and they got rid of the stupid system where we need to duel rivals if we land on the same space as another player. Instead, a player will just ground pound on an opponent if they land on that same space, and they'll steal 5 coins. We can also hop across our opponents if we move past them during a dice roll, and they'll hop on their heads and steal 1 coin. I also miss having each character move at once, but I guess that's trickier to do on a console that requires players to share the same screen. It made more sense on the 3DS where each player had their own screen on their own console, so I can understand why it had to be changed for this, but I think it still should have been an option, at least for those who are playing in single player. So despite being a 2 vs 2 mode, not all the mini-games we play in this mode are 2 vs 2. We can also play 4-player minigames, where as long as one player from a team wins, then that team wins coins, even if the partner lost that minigame. There are no 1 vs 3 minigames, but I still love how the 4-player minigames are included. You couldn't play 4-player minigames in the previous tag modes from the GameCube entry, so yeah, this is quite an improvement compared to those modes in my opinion. Partner Party Mode introduces new exclusive minigames that can normally be played as 2 vs 2 minigames, but if each player can manage to get enough allies, the minigames can become 8 vs 8 minigames, with a total of 16 players. The mode can only support 4 human players though, but it's still insane to see a mode that can allow 12 CPU players to roam around, not only the board map but even the minigames. It's so much better than the underwhelming 8-player mode from Mario Party 7. The controls are so much comfier as well. One Joy-Con is so much comfier than awkwardly huddling together to share one half of a GameCube controller. Most of the partner minigames are fun, but some feel very one-sided when one team basically wins for having the most allies. For it feels like if one player has one more ally than the other player, then they're not going to stand a chance if they don't have an ally. It can make a lot of the games feel very unfair. I still can't forgive Super Mario Party Jamboree for ruining such a fun gimmick. So Jamboree only allowed for one ally to appear at a time, but they're only available for 3 turns. You gotta go through ridiculously lengthy minigames to win them on your side, just for the CPU to steal them because they walk past you on a dice roll, and then they disappear for 3 turns after they're befriended. So yeah, they don't really give you many perks too. Oh, they'll double your coins, they'll double the stars that you earn, but they'll also double the punishments you get. So you'll lose twice as many coins, or you'll lose twice as many stars if something bad happens to you. So in the previous games, getting an ally was a good thing, and in this one, it's a double-edged sword. It can serve you really well, but it can really screw you over in the process. So yeah, they ruined the ally system in Jamboree. It is awful in that game. It's not as fun to only see one ally at a time compared to seeing a total of like 12 allies running across the screen at once. It really made the game more chaotic in Super Mario Party. There's just so much more that you can do with the allies in Super Mario Party. They can grant you special dice blocks that are exclusive to certain characters. They can grant you a chance of getting a bonus star award at the end of the game. And then not to mention how in Star Rush they had even more unique abilities where they could smash through obstacles or find hidden coins and stuff like that. And so yeah, the ones in Jamboree are just terrible compared to the ones in past games. The first partner minigame is Rowboat Uprising, just a simple paddle boat racing minigame where we row the Joy-Con to paddle our side of the raft as we try paddling in unison with our partners to race to the finish, while knowing which directions to paddle in order to dodge obstacles at approach. It's okay, but it honestly feels very pointless considering how there's another mode in this game with the exact same gameplay, but it's much longer and honestly better, so I'll get more on that later. Train in Pain has us needing to drive these trains around as we try getting behind our opponent's trains and punching them out of the game, but if they have allies behind them, then their train is longer, which means it'll take longer to punch out the driver of the train. Pull It Together is just an underwhelming clone of Tug of War, but now it's a button masher. I feel like this would have made more sense if we just had to tug on the Joy-Con like we're actually tugging on a rope. So you basically lost if you're facing an opponent who has one more ally than you do, because no matter how hard you button mash, you will not be able to outmatch two people pulling on a rope at once. So yeah, it can feel very unfair. Hammer and Sick'em is a game of bashing the opposing team's balloons, but if they have allies, the allies will make coming close to them a lot harder, for they too can bash your balloon. It's the Pits is a dumb luck game of running around and hoping not to be standing over the spot where a trapdoor will trigger. Just for Kicks is a generic soccer minigame, but with the bonus of having up to 16 players at once. Sadly, we're only in charge of controlling our own player, so we can't swap between the CPUs to control them, unfortunately, and the CPU are dumb and uncooperative, so yeah, you're better off just playing Mario Strikers or any other soccer game for that matter. Bumper Brawl is not only the best clone of Bumper Balls, but it's honestly even better. Not only is it crazier with the 8 versus 8 player action, but we can hold the right button to rev up for more speed for a more powerful knockback, but it can also backfire on us and fling us off if we use it incorrectly. Now there was a Coinathlon minigame from Star Allies with very similar gameplay, except it was strictly a one-player minigame and it had many CPU at once, so this kind of reminds me of that, except we're not collecting coins every time we knock someone off. So this minigame feels like an upgrade from the one from Star Allies, but it's made even crazier with 16 characters at once. Now, Lit Potato is basically a reimagining of an already reimagined minigame, because in Mario Party 8's Deluxe Party Cruise, there was basically an 8-player version of Hot Bob-omb from the original Mario Party, so now this is just a 16-player version of that minigame. Get Over It is a survival challenge of jumping over the rolling enemies. Half the Battle is a simple idea ruined by uncooperative CPU. We have to find halves of an amulet as we try meeting up with our teammates on the other side. I have no idea why this is a partner minigame compared to just being a regular 2 versus 2 minigame, because the allies do absolutely nothing to help. They just stand around following us instead of helping us grab and return the amulets. It's a fun idea, but poorly executed. The next sets of minigames are from a new co-op challenge called River Survival, where 4 players need to work together to row a raft through dangerous waters to reach the goal before the time runs out. We paddle just like we did in the raft minigame from Partner Party mode. Along the way, we need to try collecting the stopwatches to recover more time while dodging obstacles and such. We need to race through many split brackets to reach the goal. At the end of each bracket, we get forked paths with a teaser image of what lies on the other ends of those tunnels. The players need to work together to choose which paths will be the easiest or more resourceful way of progressing. These paths can lead to many routes, such as paths with many rocks that we need to dodge, but plenty of speed boost paths, cheap infested waters where we need to dodge the fish, ramps to jump off of, and getting attacked by a giant blooper. Across the rivers are these minigame balloons, which lead to one of 10 co-op minigames, where depending on our performance, we get more time restored to our timer to help us reach the goal. Now, from Super Mario Party Jamboree, Bowser's Kaboom Squad was basically a challenging successor to that mode, except it supported 8 players this time. While I did enjoy Kaboom Squad overall, I honestly prefer the gameplay of River Survival a lot better. It's visually more fun and exciting with all the raging water and the splash effects. It looks pretty stunning for a Switch game. The motion controls were fun, there's fun obstacles, and even the minigames are overall a better package than the ones from Kaboom Squad. They're not all perfect though, but I do have more fun playing these co-op minigames compared to the 8-player ones from Bowser's Kaboom Squad. So once again, just like in Kaboom Squad, the minigames are all co-op based, and we have not seen co-op minigames like this since the first Mario Party, with the likes of Keep Away and Running of the Bull. But I remember liking those minigames, and I remember wondering, why doesn't Nintendo make more of these in their sequels? So it's great to finally see Nintendo returning to the idea of 4 players needing to work together to win. It's a great mode overall, but I would have loved the option to play it without the mini-games. I would have loved the option to just be able to row and keep collecting stopwatches and dodge obstacles, because the mini-games can get very intrusive, and I felt the same way about Bowser's Kaboom Squad. I felt the mini-games got way too intrusive at times. So these minigames include Net Worth, where all 4 players need to pull on the Joy-Con at the right time to try netting in the most cheap. Now most of these minigames are very easy, and it helps that the CPU are very cooperative for the most part, as they mostly seem to mirror our movements, meaning as long as a single player does well, the rest of the CPU should do as well. Though there are a few exceptions. On to Sort of Fun. I get such a hard laugh every time this minigame gets picked, because I just get reminded of a funny video called Give Me the Ball, Papa, by YouTube user Jimmy2296. Bowser refuses to pass the ball to his son, which makes Junior look impatient and dumbfounded. It's just so funny. Once you've seen that video, you'll never play this minigame the same way again. The minigame itself is pretty fun. The characters are handed different balls, and we have to pass them down to the other players with the basket containing the matching ball picture. It's overall simple but fun, but please don't be like Bowser and make sure to pass the ball. Home on the Ring has all the players throwing boomerangs to knock over pokies. Penguin Pushers is quite the opposite of pushy penguins, but not as fun. So instead of getting pushed around by penguins, we're pushing the penguins as we have to herd the penguins out of the rink. But the CPU on the penguins are very uncooperative, which can lead to many time overs no matter what you or your teammates do. It should have been based more on how many penguins we've rounded up rather than needing us to get them all before the time runs out. I feel like it's very unfair to get all but 2 penguins and then you get no reward for making it that far. Because these penguins are not very easy to round up. Some of them just wander off into different directions, and yeah, it can get very tricky because of that. Ist Must Be the Way, that's such a strange name, but it's basically a co-op version of Perilous Path from Mario Party 4, as each player takes turns running through narrow paths to carry a bomb to a cannon at the end. Go With the Flow is one of the most annoying rap survival minigames, as we have to go 3 slow and repetitive rounds of moving the Joy-Con in a wheel formation to blow the 3 Toads balloons to collect the most tiny balloons. The CPU are not cooperative, and it would have been so much better if it only went on for 1 round. It mostly consists of waiting around for the CPU to get done with their turns. It's just not fun, slowly watching this slow Toad balloon just whooshing around with this very obnoxious music in the background. This one gets on my nerves every time it's picked. Minor Setbacks has us needing to carry gems to the other side while dodging piranha plants. Fetch Quest required collecting 9 gems and returning them to the center altar. 2 of the players will need to stand on switches to open pathways to get these 4 blocked off gems. Suit Yourselves is okay in single player mode. It does go on a little too long though, but I can imagine it being much more difficult with human players, and they'll likely mess up more than the CPU actually, where the CPU seem to automatically know the correct answers every time. This one is a stupid game of watching cards shuffle around while we need to pick the 4 cards that match like a certain symbol. So my biggest problem with this minigame is that it drags on way too long. It's not hard, it's just boring. It's not one that you'll have fun playing through every time it gets picked. Fireplace Race has us needing to race through these pitch black rooms and light up the torches while avoiding the swoopas. And finally, there's the 10 Soundstage minigames. Soundstage is arguably the most forgettable mode in the game, and its minigames in this entry are not very good. I mean, not all of them are bad, and I'll at least say they were less annoying here compared to the faulty rhythm minigames from Mario Party Jamboree. At least in this one, we're playing them for fun against the CPU. In Jamboree, all these minigames were co-op based, and the CPU would never mess up. And so it makes you feel like an idiot when you can't do it 100% perfectly, and then the game judges you for not doing good enough, and it's not my fault that these minigames are awful. I mean, the point of rhythm minigames is getting you into the rhythm so you actually have fun trying to match the symbols, and I'm sorry, but none of the rhythms in this are good, and none of the gameplay is good, so together, they're just terrible rhythm minigames. because the music in these are so awful, it makes us want to focus less on the music and focus more on timing to the visuals rather than the music. And then it punishes us for going too early or too late, and it's so annoying. I feel like these could have worked if they weren't rhythm minigames. So Strike It Rich has us needing to raise our Joy-Cons at the right time to hit coins out of blocks. Time to Shine has us needing to move our Joy-Cons to mimic Waluigi's poses at the right time. Now I have no idea what happens if you play this minigame as Waluigi. Does another character take his place or what? But I wasn't interested enough to replay this minigame to try and find out. I did notice they lazily recycled this minigame in Jamboree. It's basically the same thing in Jamboree, except now Waluigi has a salt and pepper shaker, and you gotta mimic his motions of salting and peppering, basically. Take a Stab has us jabbing the Joy-Con to skewer fruits to the beat of the music. Many of these minigames would have worked so much better without the useless rhythm requirement, and once again, this minigame was lazily recycled in Jamboree. All-Star Swingers is just Dinger Derby with a useless rhythm gimmick now, and once again, they lazily recycled this minigame for Jamboree. I didn't notice this when playing Jamboree because it's been a while since I played Super Mario Party, but upon revisiting, I realized, like, oh my god, they just lazily copied the minigames from this. Rhythm and Bruise is basically just whack-a-mole, but with rhythm. Pep Rally has us lifting our Joy-Cons up at the right time to flip our sign panels in sync with the crowd. Wiped Out has us swiping the Joy-Con at the right time to clean windows. Once again, this could have worked if it wasn't a rhythm minigame. Fiddler on the Hoof has us needing to shake the Joy-Con at the right time for our horses to gallop faster. The timing feels horribly off in this minigame. The only thing I like about it are the visuals of the scenery, like the grass looks really nice, but the rest is garbage. You know the game itself is bad when even the CPU are constantly messing up. Clearing the Table is the worst one of these rhythm minigames. I honestly don't even know how it works or what we're supposed to properly do. So we're supposed to pull on the Joy-Con sometime after the last wine glass gets stacked on top of the table. And then we have to pull on the Joy-Con to pull the cloth from under the table without spilling the glasses. But they keep spilling anyways, no matter what we do, so yeah, I don't like this one. Finally, there's Baton and On. It starts off silly and stupid enough as we move our Joy-Cons up and down to match Toadette's marching baton motions. The character's poses and marches are pretty hilarious and silly, but it goes on way too long. This has got to be the worst parade I've ever seen. Toadette is constantly randomly flipping into different directions instead of going on a steady choreographed pathway. Now someone revoke Toadette's baton because she's not worthy of it. And the music gets very annoying as well. Despite a few stinkers here, overall the minigames in this were really impressive, some of the most refreshing minigames in the whole series. I haven't played such a good collection of minigames since Mario Party 5. I wouldn't say they're as good as Mario Party 5, but they came close. Onto Party Mode, which only has 4 small maps to choose from. Now, I don't mind how small they are, but what I do mind is how uninspired they are. They're just lazy rehashes of past stages, with nothing new or nothing to visually make them more stunning to look at. It's sad how you can look at the maps from the N64 games and say they have more personality than this HD entry. I mean, they function just fine, but they're all just blocky and flat. They don't have like really any interesting textures or any interesting objects going on in the background to really liven these boards up. So they're not as boring as Mario Party 4 maps in my opinion, but not as inventive as the maps we've seen in games like Mario Party 5 and after. So all 4 maps are also playable in Partner Party mode, but they have different gameplay and different rules. So in Party mode, the board maps play just like the classic games for that most part, so they got rid of the pesky mini-stars from Mario Party 9 and 10, and they go back to the good old coins and stars, how I've missed them. In my opinion, the worst thing about Party mode in this game is Toad and Toadette. They really slow the gameplay down. They have to slowly over-explain everything to us, no matter how many times we play the game. Every time we get an item, Toad has to remind us we got an item and we should use it now, despite how now is not the best time to use that item. Every time we open the map, Toad has to have a drawn-out and unskippable segment about the quickest routes that we can pick to get across the map or some other crap. And every time the star changes locations, we have to slowly watch Toadette fly across the screen. I really wish they gave us the option to speed this stuff up or skip it, because it takes what should have only taken 30 minutes of gameplay and it makes it drag on for over an hour of waiting around. Despite how slow it is, it's still fun to play. There are many differences this time around, like how the last 5 turns are now the last 3 turns. They return to the classic tradition of giving last place a bonus, along with the doubling the value of the blue and red spaces. There are no more duel minigames in this entry, sadly, so duels will not trigger when one player lands on the same space as another. The luck spaces from Mario Party 9 return as bonus roulettes to grant a player an item or coin bonus. The ally spaces allow us to spin a roulette to have an ally join our team with extra dice boosts, which can go from 1 to 3 each turn. Admittedly, the dice blocks are very bland looking in this game, looking like untextured 3D models, but each character has a unique dice block that could come in handy during situations. Instead of rolls of 1 to 6, each player gets varied results. For instance, Shy Guy has a chance of rolling 1 0 or 5 chances of rolling a 4. It might seem useless at first, because you can have a chance of rolling a 0, but it can come in handy in some rare instances. For instance, during the last turn on one stage, I needed to roll a 4 or higher to reach the star. I wasn't going to win the game anyways because Donkey Kong had way too many stars, but I took the risk of having 5 out of 6 chances to roll a 4, versus half the odds of rolling a 4 or higher. And I ended up rolling a 4, and I managed to get a few stars during my last turn because of it. So there are plenty of dice blocks that look useless, but they might come in handy if you're trying to even the odds of landing on a space that you want to land on, or if you're too afraid to move ahead or too fast for certain reasons. It's not a feature I use often, but it is a neat feature. It would have been cool to see this brought back in Jamboree, but they didn't for some reason. And then for every ally we collect, we can even use their character-specific dice blocks as well. They admittedly ruined the battle minigame spaces. They're now called Versus Spaces. Instead of wagering coins to win in a minigame, we play what's called a Rumble game, which are these dumb QuickTime events, similar to the Ally Duels from Star Allies. Now you think that would be grateful that they shorten these and have us just play these short, quick events instead of playing actual minigames. But no, I'm actually not, because these short and simple minigames aren't very fun. They feel lazy, to be honest. Most of them are pretty easy, but there are still a few of them that take real dumb luck to win. I would have just rather played a regular minigame instead of played these really dumb, boring events. We've still got items, but they're very cut back here. We don't have the wide array of items from Mario Party 3 or the fun capsules from Mario Party 5. It's just the basics, like a mushroom that gives us 3 extra movements on our dice rolls, the double blocks, the triple blocks, the gold warp pipes, which are the replacements of the magic lamp item, or the warp blocks, so it's not as big of a variety as the ones we got in Mario Party 3 or Mario Party 5, unfortunately. Now the boo spaces have been replaced with Lakitu, as we pay him to steal coins, or we pay 30 coins to steal stars. So it's 20 coins cheaper than how much it costs to steal stars in past entries. It's also worth noting that the stars now cost 10 coins compared to 20 coins from the previous entries, but in the 2 entries that came after this, they went back to using 20 coins per star instead of the 10 coins used in this one. Rolling a 0 on a dice block acts very differently in this game, and I think this was the only game to use this feature because I don't recall it happening in Jamboree, but so in past games, there were rare instances where you could have rolled a 0 due to an item like a curse block or a poison shroom, which basically forces you to skip a turn, but in this game, landing a 0 actually allows you to trigger the space you're already standing on from the previous turn. So that could come in handy. For instance, Donkey Kong Special Dice Block has a likely chance of rolling 0s. So if you kept rolling a 0 on lucky spaces or item spaces, you could constantly be rewarded with items and stuff like that. So it may risk you losing mileage that you could have been spending to track down stars, but you never know when this stuff could come in handy. It's like, what's the point in rolling a high dice number when you're not going to be able to reach them in time anyways before the star has to respond? So yeah, you might as well try rolling a 0 when you're standing on top of a pretty valuable space. Try to get something that'll help you when the next star spawns. So the first board map is Whomp's Domino Ruins. It's basically just a dumbed-down version of Mario Party's Donkey Kong's Jungle Adventure. It has more bland visuals. It needs us to pay Whomps to pass certain pathways just like before. And we gotta watch out for happening spaces that trigger rolling boulders. Now the happening spaces used to have question mark symbols on them, but now they've been replaced with exclamation marks for some reason. So they're basically what the chance time spaces used to look like. King Bob-omb's Powder Keg Mine is nothing new. There's a gimmick where landing on a happening space in the center square will start a countdown from 5 to 0. When it reaches 0, anyone around that square loses half of their coins. There's also a conveyor belt area where a Bob-omb will start following us, and it forces each of our dice rolls to subtract 1 from the dice roll until that Bob-omb disappears after a few turns. Mega Fruit Paradise is visually my favorite level. Mechanic-wise, it's my least favorite level. So stars will spawn between 1 of 4 fruit-shaped islands. So 2 of these islands are connected with each other through a bridge. But if the star spawns on one of the 2 opposite islands furthest away from the 2 islands you're on, The only way to get there is by landing on a happening space to warp you over there. I was never a fan of this mechanic in Mario Party games where you gotta use happening spaces to warp between ends of the board map to get certain stars, or the ones that require it needing a skeleton key to get like a star behind a certain gate or something. Yeah, those always kind of annoyed me, especially when the CPU is so far ahead of it. It makes you wonder what's the point in even landing on a happening space now, because by the time you get there, the CPU is just going to get it, and then the star is going to warp back to the space you were previously on, so what's the point? I don't like these board maps, they're just frustrating. Kamek's Tantalizing Tower is honestly the ugliest looking board map I've ever seen. It's just a small old-fashioned city with gold paint textures. Were they trying to make this place look rich and expensive? Because all I see is a pea-stained city. Despite its ugly design, this is arguably the best level in the game. The star is stationed at the top of the city, as we choose between multiple paths to try finding the quickest way to the top. Once we go past the star space, we warp back to the start to try reworking our way to the top. There's a gimmick where every time a star is collected, or a particular happening space gets triggered, the price of the star will change between anything between 5 to 15 coins. The stars can alternate between letting us buy 2 or 3 stars at a time. Now this gimmick is nothing new, we've seen it done numerous times in previous entries, but it's still a fun way to play the game, instead of constantly chasing the stars that are constantly on the move. It's kind of nice to have a level where the star is always in one space, even if it does alternate between the price and how many you can get at once. I always liked levels that were more about landing high dice numbers instead of punishing you for landing high dice numbers. So the board maps may not be the best in the series, but they're not the worst board maps ever made. They still function pretty well, they're still fun to be had with them, but I personally prefer playing these board maps in partner party mode. I actually do prefer partner party over the regular party mode in general. It feels like these maps were made for that mode in particular, but they decided to rework them to also play as traditional Mario Party board maps. Now, I can understand that not everyone will like the Star Rush or the Partner Party gameplay style, but personally, I prefer it. I honestly wish they would bring this back in other Mario Party games. I'm not saying it needs to be the dominant gameplay going forward, I just think it should be an option at least. Board map-wise, Star Rush was better. When it came to the board maps, where there were 15 altogether compared to just 4, like in this game. And then there were also 3 additional maps if you include Balloon Bash, so it gave a total of 18 board maps. So if you look at it, Star Rush has the most board maps out of any Mario Party entry. But you could argue that they're pretty small and limited though, but the gameplay on them were just so much fun though. So this may not be the smallest amount of maps compared to Mario Party the Top 100, which only had 1 lousy board map, but it is disappointing to see such a low number on a home console entry. I mean, previously, most entries usually had at least 6 board maps, usually 5 board maps, but then there's always like a hidden one you got to unlock. Mario Party 10 had the lowest number of board maps, with only 5 playable maps. Now you compare that to Mario Party 1, where that is still to this day the only entry to have the most board maps, because it had 8 board maps altogether. I know I just said Star Rush had the most board maps, but that one's considered a spin-off and not a main console entry, so yeah. The low number of board maps, it doesn't anger me in this game, it doesn't ruin the game, but it does leave me wishing for more. So despite a few shortcomings and some modes and features being forgettable, Super Mario Party was the reboot that this worn-out series really needed. It breathed new life into the series with more gorgeous HD visuals than Mario Party 10. I still think this is one of the best looking entries in the series. I mean, Super Mario Party Jamboree's visuals weren't too bad either, but I feel like this one just had more fun character interactions, especially with like the high five mechanic. You got less like character interactions in Jamboree in my opinion. So it made some of the interactivity less noticeable compared to how well it was utilized in this game. Super Mario Party has some of the best minigames in the series. The roster of 20 characters is the best roster the series has ever had in my opinion. Yes, I honestly like this roster better than Mario Party Jamboree, despite how it had 2 more characters than this one. So many might get mad at me for saying that, but I don't think having Toad, Toadette, Pauline, Birdo, Spike, or Ninja are more fun to play as, compared to characters like Diddy Kong, Pom Pom, Dry Bones, or Hammer Bro. Pauline was an okay addition, but I didn't ask for any of the other characters to return. I mean, I think Toad and Toadette are some of the most annoying Mario characters. I think Spike is one of the ugliest and most boring villains ever, and then who actually asked for Ninja? So I'm sorry, I like the roster in this game a lot better, despite being 2 characters short. River Survival was a fun co-op mode, along with Puzzle Hustle. The Ally system made Party Mode, and especially Partner Party, some of the most fun party modes I've ever played, despite its underwhelming board selection. The ally system and enhanced facial expressions and interactions between the characters make this one of the most fun and colorful entries in the series. With so many characters running across the board maps and mini-games, it just makes it more fun and colorful to look at. Now, Nintendo claimed that Super Mario Party Jamboree was their biggest Mario Party yet, and while it is indeed better than a lot of the past entries, it is jam-packed with way more content, with more board maps and more mini-games. I'm sorry to say that I didn't find all of its modes or mini-games as fun as the ones available in Super Mario Party. I mean, I feel like the only thing that Jamboree has over this game was Coinathlon. Like, Coinathlon, that was a really fun feature from Star Rush, but I don't feel like that alone makes up for all the bad mini-games that are in there. But I will say that Jamboree has some of the best board maps in the series, but I don't feel like it has the best board gameplay, though, if you know what I mean. Too many of Jamboree's minigames, they drag on way too long. Why do so many of the minigames drag on for 5 to 8 minutes? I mean, a minigame should at least last about a minute. If it goes anything more than that, it usually drags on. I truly enjoyed playing Super Mario Party a lot more than most of the past entries. Yes, I even like this more than Mario Party 2, which, when I first started this review series, in the top of my head, I was thinking Mario Party 2 was my favorite entry in the series, but after looking back, I realized I don't think the game aged as well as I remembered. I still think it has the best presentation. It's got some of the most memorable board maps, but the mini-games were honestly pretty tiring. A lot of them are just rehashes from Mario Party 1, and a lot of them are real frustrating dumb luck mini-games, and then had one of the worst single-player modes in the entire series, so it's still a memorable and nostalgic game for me, but I don't think it's as great as I used to find it. But I honestly still find Mario Party 5 to be the best entry in the series so far, where it had the best combination of mini-games, board maps, and items to really add variety to this game, along with some of the best side features in the series. I don't think Super Mario Party is quite as good as Mario Party 5, to be honest, but it is good enough to sit right next to it on the top of the S tier rank. So with that out of the way, I have just one last Mario Party game to review for now, until Nintendo eventually makes another Mario Party game. You know it's going to happen someday, especially with the Switch 2 coming out. So next time, I'll look at Mario Party Superstars, Nintendo's second attempt at making a celebration game for the series. And while it's not perfect, it was definitely much better compared to the disappointing Top 100 on 3DS. That's all I have to show for now. Thank you for watching, see you next time, and have a great day.